Hey, I want to make a video addressing some of the things I've been noticing in the last few videos I've been making. Actually, since I started making videos and since I started uploading videos, I wanted to address a few points, and I wanted to address, maybe why I'm not making the points as good as I can, or why I'm talking so fast in these videos. And I think I might address that and tell you why. And one of the reasons why I'm talking so fast is I like to have a continuity of thought when I'm talking. I want to make the videos as natural as possible. I'm trying to make sure I'm making all the points I want to make, and sometimes the videos can become incoherent, but I'm trying to avoid using word replacements like and using things like that to make my point, because I don't want to keep on thinking in long spaces where I'm not thinking of anything. I want to make sure I'm making my point, and while I'm compensating, I guess, negatively by saying things like, going off the cuff and saying things that necessarily aren't relevant to the previous idea I was talking about. It's still something I want to get used to, and it's something I'm trying to get used to. And the thing is many of the reasons why I'm making these mistakes is because I'm not taking notes for these videos. And I want to make sure I get used to not taking notes, and I think it's a good skill to have when making videos, when you don't have to necessarily waste your time making notes and addressing different points by making notes, because every time I make a video, I've tried making notes, but every time I make notes, you just keep on adding more and more and more, and I can't seem to stop, and I want to keep adding points. And every time I make a video, I keep on making points that I keep adding points to the video I already thought out and thought I was going to make, and I keep adding points, and that's why sometimes I go off in left field and make different points, and I want to make sure I'm just addressing all these different things so that people might understand why I'm being a little incoherent sometimes when I'm making these videos. And I'm trying to remember everything. I can't remember everything, so even if it's just the things that I mentioned, it's hard to remember because a list would be so long, putting notes down, and I try my best to make sure I make these, the whole thing with notes would be so big. I would be writing something so long when it comes to making notes for a video. I'd just keep adding to it, and I would keep adding to it until I made the video. And when I made the video, I wouldn't be satisfied because I'd keep making points even in the video that I didn't make when I was thinking through the idea. So yeah, I've got notes right here, so that's what I'm trying to look at and see. This is what would happen if I looked at notes. I would rely on the notes too much. Yeah, and if you've seen in the last videos, I've been trying to change up the viewing angles a little bit. And day videos, I'll try my best to create some kind of interesting backdrop, and I'll try to change it up. Sometimes I'll have the computer screen on to make sure it changes up the dynamic a little bit so you can see something a little different. And sometimes I'll put the angle over here, depending on what I think looks good. And that's why I was doing the ones over on this side of the room during the day, because the light was coming in through the window, and I thought that looked pretty neat. So that's why I was doing videos on this side, because the light was cascading from the window and going on the wall. I painted a nice blue hue against the wall in the back, so I thought it would be neat. And yeah, and another reason why I'm trying to do the videos is these notes are incoherent too. I just keep adding, and they're not in order, so I make different points from the notes, and I'm trying to remember then which ones I went over. But I'm trying to make shorter videos. I might start doing some response videos. I don't know, but I'll figure it out. So I might do some response videos, and they might take a little longer, but usually the ones I'm doing, I want to make sure they're not too long, because this camera I'm using only has so much time, and that's another reason. A lot of the time I need to make my point before the video, the camera shuts off, because the camera has only so much life, and a lot of the time I'm making videos when it's on like the second bar, it has 3 bars, and I want to make sure that the when it gets on the second bar, I think I have enough time, but right after like 2 minutes into a video, and the video is probably going to be long, I need to make the points quick enough so that when it hits when it's at the last bar, it only has like 4 or 5 minutes, so I need to make sure I make the points quick enough. Otherwise, I'm not going to be able to finish the video and make the points clear, or at all make the points at all. So I'm trying my best to make sure I get the points across as good as I can. And sometimes it can come off a little awkward when I'm trying to make these points so fast, and I have no pauses in the sentences sometimes, and sometimes I say it so fast I don't even know where I left off, so I'm trying to remember sometimes I pause and think, and I just want to address that point, because I want to make sure no one's thinking that that's just the way I talk all the time. I want to make sure I'm clearing that up, just to point out that there's a reason why I'm talking fast. There's plenty of excuses. I mean, this sheet's filled with excuses on both sides. I wanted to make sure I had all of them cleared up. And I'm pretty sure there's more I can add, but I don't know. And yeah, making notes would be a waste of time. I wouldn't, like I said, it would be a waste of time. I want to spend as little time on these videos as possible. What I do is I usually brainstorm some ideas. And since I know the ideas will keep coming in even while I'm making the video, I want to make sure that, I'm not relying on something like a note piece of paper to make my points. Because I know that would just constantly be looking down at the notes to make sure, because I can be obsessive when I'm looking at this stuff, and I don't want to constantly look down and think about it and make the same point over and over again because they're not in order. So that's another point I want to make. Yeah, and I guess I'm trying to make the points fast. Like I mentioned in the other videos, I'm trying to make the points concise, and like I mentioned, you have to be fast when you're trying to convince someone, and that's part of the reason why I'm making videos, is to get people to come and try to change some people's minds, I guess, and convince some people that what I'm saying has at least some merit, and try to convince people of something of what I consider myself saying as the truth, or as best as I can. So I'm trying to convince some people, and that's the point I'm trying to make. I'm trying to convince some people of the points I'm trying to make. And I think it takes a nice balance of being fast and concise with what you're saying, but not being too fast. You need to make sure you're being clear enough when you're making your points. And I'm still getting used to making videos, so that's another reason why I'm kind of awkward in front of the camera, and when I have no notes, obviously I have to go off the top of my head, and I'm trying my best to get used to it and make sure I'm not talking too fast. But when you have one idea, and then you have another idea that comes off of that idea, you want to make sure you get back to the original point without, losing completely your train of thought, and instead of just sitting there and thinking, and then, I have to restart the video now because I sat there and thought too much, and I wasn't making a point because I lost my train of thought or something. So I guess, I'm looking down and pausing, looking at these notes, and I don't see much point in helping me. I think I could think just as fast on my own. It's just, I guess it's a nice way of cutting between ideas that you're making. I think that's one thing it might help on, but I think it mostly has to do with me getting used to making videos. So yes, they are a waste of time, but I want to use the notes in this video just to see how things work, test the waters with the note-making thing, to see if it helps me at all, and see if it does me any good. And I want to see if there's any more points I missed. Irony of making notes, obviously. I'm going to see if there's any points I missed in the video, so you have to give me some time and let me look at the notes while I look at myself in the screen in the video. Yeah, that's another thing. I keep looking. Sometimes I'm looking at the screen right above, because it's one of those flip cameras that that has the screen. You can flip the screen towards you, and you can look at the screen. And sometimes I confuse that with the viewfinder thing, the lens. Sometimes I'm looking at this, and sometimes I'm looking at that, and I don't know. Sometimes I just confuse myself, and I don't know. And I think I'm looking at you, or looking at the camera right at someone on the other side, but I'm looking at myself on the screen right above it. And my eyes are wandering. I think that's what everyone does. Everyone's looking around, trying to think. It's awkward just staring at something all the time and not changing your point of view. So, yeah, I think that's okay. I think, from my point of view. So I guess I'll go through each one of these points. It's a note video. I guess they can be a an irony video, right? Looking through the points, addressing the points with the exact same thing that I'm criticizing myself for about not making points, and doing something completely and utterly counterproductive in the opposite direction. I'm just looking at the notes, going over the same points over and over again. It doesn't help anything, and I'm trying to make a point, but proving the point wrong by doing this point. Making notes isn't necessarily always a good idea when you have too much to write, and if you already don't have too much to write, you might as well go off the top of your head, right? So I don't see much point. Yeah, proving a point by completely invalidating the point. Proving the point that having notes isn't always a good idea, or having notes, testing the water with notes, but proving that, and talking about how I haven't been making notes, but not making it seem bad to make notes. Maybe it's about getting used to making notes. I don't know, maybe not. By proving how bad it is to make notes in videos. Okay, so I have too much to say. Yeah, I have too much to say, and obviously keep adding to the notes. I've been creating different views around the room and making sure you have something different to look at, so you don't have to just keep looking at the same thing over and over again. And avoid saying things like, I want to have a continuity of thought, make sure I'm making a point, and make sure I'm not saying too much and using word replacements, so I'm confusing and you constantly hear me say and all that crap. So I'm trying to avoid to say those things to buy myself time. Not taking notes, but seeing if they help. Yeah, so that's what I'm doing in this video. I'm seeing if the notes help me by making a video about notes and why I haven't been using notes, and talking about why I've been talking so fast in videos, and explaining the videos I have been making. Adding extra to already established ideas, and that's what I mean by, in the video, sometimes the ideas keep rolling in. Sometimes I oh wow, I didn't think about that idea when I was originally thinking of these thoughts, and so I thought, well, what's the point in making notes anyway if I'm just going to keep adding ideas on and on and on? Obviously the notes can help, and they help create a barrier between each thought, and you could just add on to that. But I just keep on adding on to the notes I already have before making the video, and it's almost like a time waster when I could just go to make the video and have the same points, the basic points that I was going to make, that I would list on a note page in my head, and the ideas would already be in my head, mostly, and it helps me think off the top of my head, and I think that's a good thing to use, and the extra points would just come along naturally as they would, so making notes would just almost in a way be a waste of time. Remembering everything, so I need to remember everything. Yeah, in the videos I'm trying to remember everything. So I think having notes is obviously something that can help you remember everything, obviously. But I think that that notes can obviously disrupt the continuity of a video, but just enough maybe. But if you're not taking enough notes, then I don't see the point. Getting used to taking notes, to not taking notes, so I want to get used to talking off the top of my head. I mean, this is a long video about notes. It's already at 13.5 minutes. Wow, that's funny and ironic, isn't it? Yeah, I don't know, from my point of view. So, waste of time. Yeah, like I said, it's a waste of time. But using notes in this video, making a point fast and concise, like I said, trying to convince people, you have to be fast enough. You can't sit there and linger on one point for too long, otherwise people will find almost an excuse, even if it's a video they're watching, to find a way to argue to you through their own, through themselves, and they might find a reason to not listen to you, or they might find some excuse in the meantime. It'll leave them open to, when you talk fast, it leaves them open to more of a vulnerability to accepting something from another point of view, or an argument from someone else, trying to convince them of something. And getting used to making videos, that's obviously what I'm doing. Still getting used to making videos. I haven't done this before, so I'm still getting used to the idea of making videos, and it's something I think I've gotten used to pretty quick, so I think it's a good thing. Getting used to making videos. The more you have, the more there is to take. Oh yeah, I wanted to make another point in this video. But also, with these notes, it just proves that I kept on adding up until I made the video, and I probably would have added more and more, but I think when it comes to making notes, I think it's limited. And I don't know if I've added too much to the points I've already made, but I guess that's something in favor of notes. Sometimes you write so many notes down that you have all your bases covered, but not necessarily based on all my other experiences with taking notes. So I think that's something to consider, and I think, I keep saying that. So yeah, the more you have, there's something, the 2 points that I wanted to add in this video, along with this note-taking thing, was the concise point thing. Obviously, I want to talk about arguing with people. Obviously, how you argue with people is important, and convincing them, especially through a medium like making a video and having them watch you, is something that you have to be your best, because you're making a video and you could always redo the video unless the video is too long, like this video. Then yeah, you have to be concise. I mean, I can't even stay on the subject with notes because I lose train of thought with what I'm trying to do. So you have to be concise enough. Oh, anyway, you have to be concise enough, and you have to make sure you're talking fast enough as to give as little opportunity for someone to find some excuse. I guess that's a dishonest way of arguing, but making your point fast and concise can be a little more convincing when you're making a point, and it gives people less of an excuse to come up with their own excuses to, irrational or irrelevant excuses to completely disparage and ignore what you're saying. So that's obviously something else. And the other point I wanted to make, and it's from, it's the more you have, the more there is to take. It's, so this concept is, when you're stuck in these impossible situations, when you have all these things that you're connected to, it's in a video that Mindum made today, and I wanted to just put my point of view and see if I can add anything to the subject. And the point of the subject is, the more you have, it's like a torturous thing, and the more you have, the more there is to take. Yeah, obviously. So you're stuck in an impossible situation. They want their information. Obviously, it depends on the point of view where you think you have something to lose on both sides. So say you want to make, obviously, there's someone that's coming to interrogate you, and they may even torture you or break things. Torture you in any way possible to get the information they want, and they're trying to make sure that they want to get the information from someone. You have a lot of information. You're a prime suspect when it comes to getting information. You're stuck in this impossible situation where you have all these. Say you're Leonardo da Vinci, and you have all these sculptures around your room, and the resistance comes to interrogate you, and you have so much to lose. You have all these sculptures, and if you don't answer them, they'll slowly but surely destroy everything in this room, burn your house down, or eventually come and torture you if that's not enough. And you're stuck in this impossible situation where you have this principle where you're not, and the resistance is saying they want this information. This resistance is trying. I would say, the government, instead of resistance, the government's trying to, it's trying to hurt the people, and they're trying to hurt the people the people that live around them. They're trying to hurt everyone. The government, or whatever example you want to use, some resistance group or some government that's trying to hurt everyone, and doing nothing but terrorizing everyone, and they want to find ways to terrorize more people, and you have some information they need when it comes to finding out about certain people, and certain people they want to hunt down and maybe even execute. These are people that you probably know yourself, but you're caught between a rock and a hard place when you're trying to figure out, well, do I tell them this information so they kill my friends and family? Or do I risk them breaking all of my stuff in my room or in my workshop? Do I tell them, or do I not tell them? You have to. It's rock and a hard place. And in a way, you can lie to them, but they'll come back and destroy what you have if they know that you were lying. So lying is obviously a risk that probably isn't worth taking when it comes to considering something like that. So you have to consider either tell them the truth And say even if it's like they can tell if you're lying. If they tell you lying, they'll just burn everything down anyway. So you either be truthful and tell them where it is, or they burn everything down, or they burn everything down anyway, even if you tell them the truth. But you never know. They might do that, they might not. When considering that, you have to assume it's either one or the other. It's probably the best way of getting yourself through a situation like this. You have to consider either your life's work that's stuck in your workshop, or it's saving your family. And I would say that obviously that's probably one of the hardest predicaments to be in, because you're stuck between two of the most cherished things that you can possibly think of: your well-being and all the work that you've done, and all the work that may have affected all sorts of people. If they go around and destroy your work, that can have a grave effect on the people around you. It could have had, depends on obviously your influence, but all the work that you could have done can have obviously had a grave effect on everyone, and all this work can be destroyed, and it can obviously hurt society. But obviously, it's the thing is all your work, while it may hurt, and the reaction you may have may be devastating, and you might even want to kill yourself because of it. It's one person against maybe possibly many others. It depends on the risk and the weight. The weight on either side. It's either your friends and family. It depends on how many people are on the scale, but obviously the pain of one is not enough to compensate for the pain of so many others. So if you were trying to save one other person, I guess you can find some validation, but obviously it depends on all these very complicated circumstances. Maybe they're not telling you all this information. So it's obviously being stuck between a rock and a hard place, because at this point the details don't even matter, especially when they're not willing to give the details. It's like, we're going to kill this amount of people, or we're going to make the torture on this amount of people, and destroy society in any sort of number of ways. And if you don't tell us, we're going to destroy everything in here, and we're going to leave you homeless and let you die on the streets, thinking about how much you have given up for absolutely nothing. And anyway, they might even kill them anyway. That's the thing. If you don't give them the information, they'll kill the people anyway. So if you don't tell them the information they want, they'll destroy everything and they'll kill everyone. And if you don't, if you tell them, yeah, okay, I've lost my track again. If you tell them, then your friends and family will be killed. And if you don't tell them, I've lost the point of the thing. That's the point of this video. It's to prove just how incoherent it could be, even with notes and trying to remember all sorts of things. So yeah, it's about when they're trying to find something about that, they'll destroy your life, or they'll destroy their lives. Or if they're holding them hostage, if you know that they're holding someone that you know hostage, the well-being of society, or the family, or anyone, you have to tell them, otherwise they're going to destroy you, destroy everything you have, and they're going to kill someone anyway. So it doesn't matter anyway, but it depends on the circumstances on both sides. And it really is important when making these, being stuck in these predicaments, because otherwise you're gonna have to make a choice, and the choice is obviously devastating on either side. Your life's work that you've been working on for 30 years. Obviously, I'm not giving an exact example, but obviously when you're stuck in between these two different places, it can be difficult. But logically speaking, it's about the individual, the welfare of a sentient being, and you have to rationally, when you're talking about the solution to this kind of problem, you want to make sure you're saving the well-being of others, making sure they're comfortable, as opposed to taking away from what you've got. And while it may be uncomfortable and you may find no will to live at that point, you're compensating by letting the other people live, more than compensating by letting the other people survive and not be tortured to death, or whatever the situation may be. So I don't know if I made this video clear enough. But it's obviously between the concept is between being in a rock and a hard place, and making these impossible decisions, and and recognizing these predicaments when they come up, and how these predicaments are constantly around us. We just don't know that every choice we make has an effect on someone else, either positive or negative. And every choice that we have to either not take action, or take away from ourselves or others, or vice versa, that it's doing something to have an effect on everyone around us. It's just that we don't know it. We're blind to all these effects that we have on everyone. So that's the point of the video, I think, and I think I made the point of the video clear enough. Clear enough that it's a video about the irony of taking notes, and it's a long video, even though I said I'm trying to make short videos. So I think that's a good enough proof, I guess. Yep, I think that's it. So I apologize for the incoherency of the last point I was making, and the incoherency of talking about the notes, but I tried my best, and I want to make sure I cleared all these things up, and I want to add some extra things in the video too, and it ended up being very long, so I apologize for that, and I apologize for how incoherent the last point I made was about the rock and the hard place kind of predicament, and how you have an effect on everything we do has an effect on everything, and how every decision we make can have an implication of having that rock in a hard place. So yes, I think that's all I wanted to say. So I do appreciate it, and I yeah, appreciate it. Yeah. Till next time, and goodbye. Bye.